What is going on, guys? Welcome to this edition of the Second Chance Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chance Dyson. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I want to remind you to go like, rate, subscribe to this podcast. If you enjoy it, show it to a friend. I would really appreciate it if you guys did. And hey, don't forget, go follow at Second Chance Pod on Instagram and Twitter. I've got a lot of cool stuff coming up on my social media for you guys, and I want you to go check it out. So without further ado, we have Week 6 and Week 7 recap and predictions of the NFL and NCAA for you guys. So I didn't say it last week, so I'm going to say it this week. Let's get right into it. In the first game we have on tap this week is one of the bigger upsets that we saw in college football. Texas A&M defeats number 4 Florida 41-38. Heartbreaking field goal in the last seconds. Of course, one of the bigger disappointments of the week. I really liked Florida. I like what they're doing. I like Trask and Pitts. They still, even through the loss, continue to stack up that Heisman resume. 23 of 32 on all of his passing, 312 yards, 13.6 average, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and only sacked once. And Pitts, on top of that, targeted 9 times, 5 receptions, 47 yards. His longest was a 16-yard catch, and he had a touchdown. So still pretty solid there. Really close loss to this A&M team. I don't think we see Florida fall far in the AP rankings. Then after that, Clemson, of course, walks all over number 7 Miami, who did not deserve to be there whatsoever. They beat them 42-17. Then we have Notre Dame walking all over Florida State 42-26. That game was kind of a blowout from the beginning. Then Alabama wins a close one all the way down into the fourth quarter with an Ole Miss. They win that game 63-48. Lane Kiffin was accused of sign stealing. I don't really think that's true. So I think that Ole Miss really was close to beating number 2 Alabama. So then we see Auburn defeat Arkansas 30-28. I personally picked Auburn. I think that Arkansas is just not going to be a very good team this year. Then I was wrong here. I picked Tennessee over Georgia, hoping for an upset. Didn't work out in my favor. Tennessee loses this game 44-21. Georgia more than likely goes up in the rankings this week. I think we see them at number 2. Then Iowa State defeats Texas Tech 31-15. Oklahoma, the Red River Showdown. If you guys didn't watch this, you missed a phenomenal game. 4 overtimes. We see Spencer Rattler struggle all the way through the first half. I believe he was even benched at one point for the backup quarterback Mordecai, who came in. He came in through 5 of 7 first completions, 52 yards, and Rattler ended up 23 of 35, 3 touchdowns, 209 yards, 1 interception, was sacked once, and just, oh my God, just a phenomenal game. If you didn't see it, you missed out. We had Sam Ehlinger again stacking his Heisman resume, 30 of 53, 287 yards. Unfortunately, his O-line was his demise. Was sacked 6 times through 2 interceptions, but on the other hand, had 2 touchdowns still. So great game there. If you missed the Red River Showdown, run it back. Whatever you have, DirecTV, Dish, any of that, go watch it again. Then we have North Carolina, shocking the world. Coming up into that number 8 position last week, everyone was kind of dumbfounded, but defeats Virginia Tech 56-45. Big game for them there. And then we see LSU, the national champions. This is really disappointing. They fall to Missouri 45-41. LSU will more than likely fall out of the rankings this week. They are horrendous right now. It's not a good look for Ed Orgeron. As much as I like him as a coach, I think this LSU team has a lot of work to do. So those are our matchups for this past week. Now I want to jump in and we'll give you this week's AP. We're going to go through the top 10 like I normally do. I don't like to go through the whole list. I'll pick out a couple that are a little bit higher that are kind of surprising. But let's go. Number 1, Clemson. Number 2, Alabama. Number 3, Georgia. Number 4, Notre Dame. Number 5, you ready for this one? North Carolina, the Tar Heels. Number 6, Ohio State. And then we have number 7, Oklahoma State, who I believe was on a bye week last week, looked really good, though, in their previous week. They go to number 7. Then number 8, the Cincinnati Bearcats. I don't know how they got there. I think they're going to be another Miami where they kind of toss them in and they don't really deserve to be there. Then they'll take a big L and fall out. So don't think we see much of them anymore after this week. Then Penn State, number 9. Number 10, the University of Florida. They drop all the way to 10 after that loss. Texas A&M sits at number 11. We see Miami go to 13. Auburn go to 14, Tennessee to 18. Michigan come up a little bit to number 19 from 20 somehow. Still at a 0-0 record. October 24th is the first start date of the Big Ten. So I don't really see how we have them in the rankings right now. I think for the first time in history, we've had a 0-0 team being Penn State in the top 10. And also, well, actually, technically in the top 6, Ohio State. So 2 teams for the first time in history being 0-0 in the top 10. I can't tell you a time, at least that I've been alive, that there's been a 0-0 team that gets to kind of hold out the whole season and then just hop in midway through everybody else's season. So we'll see what happens there. I think one loss for any of these teams that are 0-0 in the top 10 will send them out indefinitely. So then let's go ahead and go into our matchups this week that I want to see, and that is going to be Auburn versus South Carolina. I don't particularly see South Carolina winning this game. Auburn being number 14, I think that they take this win here, but of course anything can happen. Then, again, here's number 8, Cincinnati versus Tulsa. Tulsa looked really good against UCF, and I think they potentially have a chance of beating this Bearcat team. So we'll see what happens. Then, number 1, Clemson versus Georgia Tech. Clemson clearly wins this game. Then, number 18, Tennessee versus Kentucky. I've got to say, I think I'm going to take Tennessee in this one. Then we have Pitt versus Miami, both pretty close to the same record. Pitt sitting at 3-2, Miami at 3-1. Miami had signs of greatness against Clemson last week, but not anything to impress me. I'm personally going to take Miami in this game. I know what happened last time I picked against Pitt, but then I picked for them the following week, and look what happened. They took an L. So I'm going to go with Miami this week personally, only because they're still ranked. Then we've got the University of Louisiana, Ragin' Cajun Lafayette against Coastal Carolina. I've got to take the Ragin' Cajun in this one. Like I said, I really like what they're doing with their football program. They looked really good this season. They sit at 21. Then number 4, Notre Dame versus Louisville. This is my upset alert of the week. I think Louisville potentially steals this game from Notre Dame. I think that Louisville comes out of nowhere with a proper game plan and picks apart this Notre Dame team. Now, this could be a really far reach, but we saw a really good Louisville team in the first game of the season. If we see that team against Notre Dame, 100% Louisville could take this game. I'm going to pick Notre Dame in good confidence, but I think that Louisville is going to put Notre Dame on upset alert. Then, if not postponed, we see the SEC matchup of LSU versus Florida. LSU, as I said before, falls out of the rankings this week. Florida still sitting at number 10. I'm going to take Florida in this game. I don't think LSU has the defensive power to stop Trask and Pitts. Then we have A&M, Texas A&M versus Mississippi State. I'm going to take A&M in this one. Then we have the Tar Heels of North Carolina, number 5 this week against Florida State. I'm taking North Carolina in this game all day long. And then Oklahoma State versus Baylor. They're coming off of their bye week. Number 7 now. I think they defeat Baylor 100%. Baylor doesn't have the firepower to stop Chubba Hubbard and L.D. Brown. Then we have Boston College versus Virginia Tech. I'm personally going to take Virginia Tech in this one. Boston College currently sits at 3-1, where Virginia Tech sits at 2-1. But I've got to say, this is kind of a toss-up for me. Virginia Tech sits at 23. Boston College has one more win than them. So I'm personally going to take Tech in this one, but I think Boston College has a pretty good chance of winning. And then, of course, the matchup of Saturday night, October 17th on CBS. You know where to find it. Georgia versus Alabama. Both teams 3-0 here. Georgia being number 3, Alabama sitting at 2. I'll be honest with you. I said it in the beginning of the season. I'm a Stetson Bennett fan. So I'm going to go with Georgia. I think that the fact of seeing Nick Saban get picked apart by Lane Kiffin this week shows Alabama's true weaknesses. And I think that Georgia has a really good chance of taking this game. So I'm going to pick them. I could be wrong. Who knows? And so that is the end of our NCAA predictions for Week 7. Now, as I say, we're going to jump ship. We're going to go right over to the NFL. We have got... It was a scary week for the NFL. Let's put it that way. Our first Thursday night matchup, Bears versus Buccaneers, had the Broncos versus Patriots get postponed this week, but the Bears versus Buccaneers, the Bears prevail over the Buccaneers, clearly picked apart that Tampa Bay offense. Tampa Bay defense couldn't do much about Nick Foles either. Foles magic, of course, coming into play, as I said before. Bears had a really good chance of winning. I picked the Buccaneers personally in my pigskin pick'em, but the Bears prevail in this one, 20-19. Then we have Jaguars versus Texans. I told you guys, I'm not picking the Jaguars for another single game the rest of the season. Texans walk all over them. Final score 30-14. There's not much more to talk about there. Then we have the Panthers beating the Falcons. I said this too. I'm not picking against Teddy Bridgewater again in that Matt Rule offense. It's impressive. And when they have McCaffrey back, it will be even more impressive of that entire offense. Again, they beat the Falcons 23-16. Then we have the Ravens pretty much keeping the Bengals scoreless except for one field goal. Ravens prevailed 27-3. Lamar Jackson sliced and diced that Bengals, a non-existent defense. They win that game there. Then we have the Rams defeating the Washington football team 30-10. Jared Goff put on a show in this game, and it was the Washington football team. We kind of knew who was going to win. Then we have the Cardinals versus the Jets. And before we get into the score, I want to tell you guys about a list that I am doing. And so I want you guys to stay tuned to my Twitter and my Instagram. That's why I said it in the beginning. I want you guys to go follow at Second Chance Pod on Twitter and Instagram. I'm about to do a list because the Cardinals defeated the Jets this week 30-10, and we saw Le'Veon Bell get cut as of Tuesday night. I am creating a top 5 AFC and NFC potential landing spot list for Le'Veon Bell. I want you guys to go check it out. I'm going to put it out as soon as you guys hear this podcast. So by the time you get done listening to this, you'll see it on Twitter and more than likely Instagram. So y'all go check that out and you will see it. So here we go. The next game we have, my Steelers prevailing over the Eagles in a close one, 38-29. Chase Claypool, AFC Offensive Player of the Week. I saw a tweet that absolutely cracked me up. He said, he was a Ravens fan. He said, we could take Justin Jefferson in the first round, and the Steelers could take Boo-Boo Nobody from the Your Mama College, and he would still do better, which so far has been true because, look, we took Claypool from Notre Dame. He was completely underrated, and so far the Steelers have had an absolute list, a big list of players that they have taken in later rounds that have turned out to be absolute stars. Listen to this list. Since 2009, the Steelers haven't selected a single wide receiver in the first round, but they've still managed to draft Antonio Brown, Mike Wallace, Juju Smith-Schuster, Emmanuel Sanders, Deontay Johnson, and Chase Claypool. As where I said, AFC Player of the Week, scored 4 touchdowns on Sunday. Standout game for him. I know fantasy owners are raving to pick him up right now because of the performances he's been putting on. And so they win that game. Steelers defense, of course, had multiple sacks against Carson Wentz. It, of course, for me, was just fun. Carson Wentz sacked 5 times through 2 interceptions. And they tried to run a little distraction play with Jalen Hurts that I actually really liked. I want to see Hurts more in that offense. So then we have, after that, we're going to go to the next game. We've got the Raiders surprisingly defeating the Chiefs, their first loss since November of 2019, 40-32. Really surprised here, honestly. Like I said, Derek Carr was my standout player in that game against the Saints, and he's my standout player again this week. Played a phenomenal game against the Chiefs. His stats came out to be, I believe, it's going to be 22 of 31, 347 yards, only threw 1 interception and 3 touchdowns. That's a hell of a stat line against the Chiefs, I must say. So then we have our very, very, very impressively surprising blowout this week. The Dolphins beat the former Super Bowl team from last year, who obviously lost to the Chiefs, the 49ers, 43-17. I am just so dumbfounded. Ryan Fitzmagic, 22 of 28, 350 yards, 3 touchdown passes. Just made Jimmy Garoppolo look a fool. Garoppolo, 7 of 17, 77 yards, 2 interceptions, sacked 3 times. Then they put Beathard in. He was 9 of 18, 94 yards, 1 touchdown, no interception, sacked twice. Just a scary day for this 49ers team. I don't even know where to begin. It was scary, needless to say. Kittle could not do anything for that San Francisco offense. Then we have my Colts losing to the Browns. And listen, I must say, for the first time in a long time, I respect this Browns team. Because I think if Pittsburgh slips up and doesn't treat the Browns like a threat, they can easily beat Pittsburgh in the first game that they play this season. Cleveland wins here 32-23. Jonathan Taylor still 57 yards rushing, had a great game. Phillip Rivers 21 of 33, 2 interceptions. I still have faith in Phillip Rivers though, because you notice they have the Colts defense and the offensive line leads the NFL in every stat you look up. Look it up. Really. They lead the NFL in every stat. Number 1 defense, number 1 offensive line. You name it, the Colts have it. So then the Browns though, Baker Mayfield 21 of 37, 247 yards. He threw 2 interceptions as well. So, still kind of iffy there. That Colts defense still coming out. And they have a lot of injured players. So, not even, I don't like to use injuries as an excuse, but still, though. Then we have the most gruesome injury of the week, of course, Dak Prescott. A lot of prayers up for him. We want to see him come back. I heard the surgery went well. So, again, big prayers up for him. Want to see him come back. The Dallas Cowboys prevail against the Giants 37-34. Daniel Jones, 20 of 33, 222 yards, no interceptions, but no touchdowns as well either. And, well, no passing touchdowns at least. And then, is it too early to say Andy Dalton still has it? I mean, Prescott before going out was 14 of 21, 166 yards, one interception, no touchdowns. But Andy Dalton, though, the passes he was throwing to Michael Gallup there in the late fourth quarter to put Dallas in the position to win, I don't know if it's too early to say Andy Dalton still has it, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Andy Dalton still has it. He's still a starting quarterback caliber, and clearly he will take over as the starter in Dallas for the rest of the season. But I don't potentially see him taking over for Dak next season. Clearly Dak a better quarterback than Andy Dalton, but Dallas still has a solid chance of winning some games this season with Andy Dalton at the helm. Then we have the Vikings versus the Seahawks Sunday night. Seahawks win a very close one. Of course, Russell Wilson giving everyone a heart attack again, but still, I mean, I think Russell Wilson has the most game-winning drives, 30 of those, since entering the NFL. And he said something really cool. He said he felt like Sue Bird in the clutch, and it was really cool because you don't really hear a lot of people reference the WNBA. I have a healthy respect for the WNBA. Really awesome for them. Wish they had a lot more respect. I love the WNBA. I love watching it. And I must say, really cool for Russell Wilson to come out and say that, because you've never heard, most people were like, oh, I'm feeling like Braun, I'm feeling like Jordan, I'm feeling like Kobe. 24 day, 24 life. Like, you normally hear stuff like that. I've never heard someone say I felt like Sue Bird in the cut. So much respect to Russell Wilson for that. His MVP candidacy still being built. Had 20 of 32, 217 yards, 3 touchdowns, was only sacked 4 times. Well, I say only, was sacked 4 times. And Seattle wins a close one. Then we have the Saints winning in overtime, a thriller. And I must say this, I posted a recording of this on my Instagram if you didn't see it. Justin Herbert's the real deal. I've got to say, 20 of 34, 264 yards. One of the first, I think he's the fourth of 4 quarterbacks who have thrown for 4 touchdowns, a lot of 4s there, on Monday Night Football. But New Orleans still prevails. Drew Brees, just like Russell Wilson, giving everybody a heart attack. They come back and win this game 30-27. And then for the first time, and which is why you're just now hearing this episode today, it's going to, I believe, by the time I get this posted, it's 5:42 now, probably going to be around 7 or 8 o'clock. What threw me off, the Bills versus Titans. I picked the Bills, but Josh Allen absolutely choked. It was an awful showing from them. Josh Allen, 26 of 41, 263 yards, 2 interceptions, sacked multiple times. And Ryan Tannehill, 21 of 28, threw for actually way less yards than Josh Allen, but 21 of 28, 195 yards, 3 touchdowns. Tennessee and Derrick Henry and Tannehill, A.J. Brown comes back. I mean, they looked really good. This Titans team is a force to be reckoned with. So that is the end of our Week 5. Now let's hop over. We're going to go to Week 6. We're going to do all of our predictions. We're going to start. We actually have a Monday night doubleheader again this week, which has been really fun. Honestly, I really enjoy having doubleheaders on Monday Night Football during the week. And we actually won't see a Thursday Night Football this week because the game that was supposed to be played for Thursday night is Chiefs versus Bills, and it's been moved to Monday night on that doubleheader. So let's go ahead. We're going to start at the top of the list here. Our first game of the week, we've got Bears versus Panthers. Personally, I think the Panthers could easily win this game. Sitting at 3-2, Bears are 4-1, coming off of a big win against Tampa Bay. I've got to say, I like the Panthers in this matchup. I'm personally going to go with them. Then we've got the Bengals versus the Colts. The Colts are clearly going to win this game, without a doubt in my mind. The Colts win this. They will move to 4-2. Then we have Broncos. This is a rescheduled game, the one that got canceled last week. Broncos versus Patriots at 1 o'clock. I got to take the Patriots in this one. I like Cam Newton. I just don't see the Broncos being able to hold up against that Patriot offense or be able to move anywhere on that Patriot defense, even though Drew Lock should return this week. He was in full pads, full uniform, full practice on Wednesday, today. So we should see him back. We could see a Broncos win here. Who knows? Then we have the Browns versus the Steelers. So this is the matchup I was telling you guys about where the Browns could very easily beat the Steelers. They sit at 4-1, Pittsburgh at 4-0. I hope we see Pittsburgh go to 5-0 this week. This is the first time since 1979 we've seen the Steelers go 4-0. I love this Steelers team. I love what we're about. And I've got to say, I'm picking the Steelers, but the Browns have a really good chance of winning. Pittsburgh has to be careful. 100% they have to be careful, because if they're not, the Browns will pick them apart, and it will be not good for this Steelers team. Then we have Falcons versus Vikings, another battle of the uglies. I'm going to personally go with the Vikings here. I think the Vikings can pick apart the Falcons, especially with no head coach right now. They have not a lot of, I don't know what to call it. I wouldn't say formation. They don't have a lot of clarity right now as to what their future is, and they also don't have a lot of uniformness. So I've got to say I'm taking the Vikings. Then we have the Lions versus the Jaguars. I'm picking the Lions. Lions win all day long. Matthew Stafford will pick apart that Jaguars defense. Veteran leadership will trump over what the Jaguars have to offer right now. And again, I'm not picking them the rest of the season. Sorry, Jaguars fans. Then we have the Ravens versus the Eagles. I'm taking the Ravens. I think Lamar Jackson prevails, but I will say what the Eagles showed the Steelers this week is proof that Carson Wentz can be the real deal when he chooses to be. Because we had a really close game there at the end before Claypool had his 4th touchdown. So I'm going to go with the Ravens in this one, but watch out for Carson Wentz in this Eagles team, because even though they're sitting at 1-3-1, one of the worst teams in the NFL right now, even though leading their division, I've got to say the Eagles may have a chance of winning this and upsetting the Ravens. That's going to be my upset watch for this week, as well as Steelers versus Browns. Then we have Texans-Titans. Titans are clearly going to win this game. They sit at 4-0. One of the last, I believe it's 4 teams that sit at 4-0. Then we have another battle of the uglies, the Washington football team versus the New York Giants. I'm personally going to take, I don't even know who to take. Honest to God, if Alex Smith plays, I'm taking the Washington football team. So that one's a toss-up. I have no real opinion on this game personally. I'll say to hell with it, and I'll pick the football team. I'll take them. Then we have Jets versus Dolphins. Jets, like I said, again, I want to make sure you guys remember, go take a look at Second Chance Pod on Twitter and Instagram, specifically Twitter, because I'm going to do an entire thread because they cut Le'Veon Bell Tuesday night. I'm going to let you know where I think Bell lands. So y'all make sure you go check that out. So Jets, Dolphins here. I think the Dolphins win. I am taking them after what they did to the 49ers. I'm taking the Jets all day long. Then we have the matchup of the GOATs, Rodgers versus Brady. I've got to say, I'm taking Rodgers in this one. I think the Packers move to 5-0. The Buccaneers stand no chance against this Packers team at full strength. Even at half strength, they don't stand a chance. So Aaron Rodgers will pick apart that Buccaneers defense, and I don't think Brady struggles, but I think that Brady will not play it as a complete game as Rodgers. Then we have Rams versus 49ers. I'm taking the Rams in this one. They'll move to 5-1. The 49ers showing struggles, especially with all their injuries. Just a downhill, slippery slope for them right now. And I don't personally see them turning the traction on and getting out of it. So Rams in that game. Then Monday night doubleheader here. Love these. First one, the matchup we've all been waiting for. Josh Allen versus Pat Mahomes. Chiefs versus Bills. I got to be honest with you. I picked the Bills last week and was disappointed. This week, I'm going with the Chiefs. I think Pat Mahomes, coming off of that bitter loss to the Raiders, will put all of his effort and all of his might into this game and pick apart the Bills. I'm taking the Chiefs. Then the other Monday night doubleheader we have is going to be the Cardinals versus the Cowboys. Personally, I got to take the Cardinals. And yeah, I mean, there's no real explanation here. D-Hop versus this Cowboys team. I do like Andy Dalton, I will say. If Andy Dalton can get his act together, even though having a great first game, get his act together, get ready, prepare for this Cardinals team, I think the Cowboys could easily win this game. But personally, I'm picking the Cardinals. I trust D-Hop and Kyler Murray more than I trust in Andy Dalton with a team full of receivers he has not a lot of trust with yet. And so that is going to wrap up our NFL Week 5 recap and Week 6 predictions. I hope you guys, enjoyed this. Again, I love doing this for you guys. Also NCAA, I meant to say. And like I said, I really do enjoy this. I love doing this for you guys. NFL and NCAA is my niche. I love talking to you guys about it. I have a lot of my family members who listen to this. And I just want to give a big shout out to my cousin Cam. Happy birthday to him today, man. He was telling me he really enjoys watching the show, and I can't tell him how much I appreciate him. So happy birthday, Cam. I appreciate you, bro. And until next time, please don't forget, go like, rate, subscribe to Second Chance Pod, the Second Chance Sports Podcast. Thank you guys for all the support again, and we will see you next time.